for watching the Brazil presentation. Today we will be going over the political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal aspects of Brazil. A few important facts about Brazil is the capital is the town of Brasilia. Brazil has a population of 205,259,812, with most of the citizens speaking Portuguese and using a currency called the Brazilian real. Brazil is located in eastern South America and borders the Atlantic Ocean. The area is a total of 8,515,770 square kilometers, with a coastline of about 7,500 kilometers. The climate stays mostly tropical, but can be temperate in the south. The political system in Brazil is comprised of executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch. In the executive branch, we have a president who is elected to serve a 4-year term. The current president's name is Dilma Rousseff. In the legislative branch, there are 91 members who serve 4-year terms. There is also a Chamber of Deputies with 513 members who serve 8-year terms. In the judicial branch, there is a federal tribune elected by the tribe, and they can serve a lifetime term. The population in Brazil is mainly distributed evenly between men and women. The age range is from 0 to 100 years old, with the biggest bulk of people being between the ages of 10 to 35. Education in Brazil has an expected years of learning is 15.2 and a mean years of learning of 7.7. The rule of law in Brazil is comprised of freedom from corruption and property rights. In Brazil, freedom of corruption has a score of about 42, and in the USA, it has about a score of 72. In the property rights, Brazil has a score of about 43, and in the USA, it has a score of 80.
GDP is an excellent tool in determining growth of a country in economic terms. Brazil's GDP follows very closely with that of the United States regarding trends. Typically, as the United States GDP rises, as does Brazil's, and vice versa. Because of the susceptibility to inflation, one can see Brazil's GDP percent growth line is far more volatile than that of the United States in most cases. Looking further into Brazil's GDP growth, this annual growth line shows the state of Brazil today. Since 1992, Brazil has experienced the lowest annual GDP growth this year in 2016. This has been more than twice as low as the previous lows in 2008 to 2009. GNI helps determine the more individual economic circumstances in the country. Brazil has had relatively positive increases in GNI per capita since 1970. Once again, this trend follows very closely to that of the United States, with much smaller dollar amounts, of course. It is important to notice that Brazil has not seen such a drop in GNI per capita it is experiencing now since the years of 1997 to 2000. Also interesting is that Brazil has not seen such a consecutive drop annually in GNI ever. Cross-border investment is an excellent tool to use in monitoring global interest and involvement a country has. The FDI inflow measurements show how much capital in US dollars Brazil has seen invest into the country today. FDI inflows are very susceptible to the political culture at the time. It is important to note that current political climate in Brazil before investing from outside sources.
According to the United Nations Development Program, there was a report that compared the Human Development Growth Index worldwide and individually ranked each country by the data they obtained. Based on this published report, Brazil ranked in 75th place and the United States in the top 10, with the highest score worldwide. While the United States average human growth index steadily grew from 1990 to 2014, it was in fact Brazil that had a significant change throughout the same period. There was an increase of 16 points from 1990 to 2014 in Brazil. This demonstrates that Brazil is a country that has potential to continue to grow and increase the average human development index, which will help benefit the people that lives there. According to the World Factbook, there are more Catholics in Brazil than in any other country. The Catholic religion is practiced in more than half Brazilian households. Other religious practices include Protestant, Christian, spiritualist, other classification, and people that do not have religious belief. Despite this, Brazil's religion and ritual practices are considered very diverse in comparison to other Latin American countries. Portuguese is the official language of Brazil and spoken by from more than 85% of the population. As the Brazilian population becomes more diverse, so does the language spoken in Brazil. The graph depicts a breakdown of some of the languages that could be spoken and heard of in Brazil. As immigrants continue to make Brazil their home, they learn to adapt to speaking Portuguese but still continues to speak their native language. These minority languages come from immigrants from Europe and Asia. As shown in this graph, the German language is spoken and used on a day-to-day basis by 1.5 million people living in Brazil. Using the information from the Hofstede Cultural Dimension Analysis, a side-by-side comparison of Brazil and the United States yielded the following information depicted in this graph. With regards to the individualism category, the United States has a high score of 91, while Brazil has a low score of 38. This means Brazilians believe that it is important to build trustworthy and long-lasting relationships. A meeting usually starts with general conversation in order to get to know one another before doing business. The preferred communication style is context-rich, so people will often speak profusely and write in elaborate fashion. On the other hand, in the United States, Americans are accustomed to doing business or interacting with people they don't know well. Consequently, Americans are not shy about approaching their prospective counterparts in order to obtain or seek information. In the business world, employees are expected to be self-reliant and display initiative. In addition, hiring, promotion, and decisions are based on merit of evidence of what one has done or can do. Using the information from the Trompenaard's Cultural Dimension Analysis, a side-by-side comparison of Brazil and the United States yielded the following information depicted in this graph. In the first category, which is the universalism versus the particularism, the United States scored 92, which is indicative of the universalism society, while Brazil scored 79, which is considered a particularism society. This reflects that Brazilians believe that each circumstances in relationship dictates the rule by which they live by. Their response to a situation may change based on what is happening at the moment and who is involved. On the contrary, Americans, on the other hand, places a high importance on laws, rules, values, and obligations. Decision-making processes are created to be fair and based on rules, not relationships.
How exactly does technology impact the country of Brazil? Well, Brazil may not be known for its technology sector, but innovation is definitely on the rise for this South American country. Brazil joined the World Intellectual Property Organization in 1970 and is the home to various startups, e-commerce, web sectors, and information technology-based companies. Social network, smartphone, and mobile application usage have also blossomed in the more recent times as well. Additionally, high technology manufacturing for goods such as pharmaceuticals and computers, have had a positive impact on Brazil. National intellectual property success stories include those such as TriTech, Pipeway, Unicamp, and FK Biotech. Technology continues to be a source of economic growth for this country. We also see the rise of technological innovation by observing the growing trend of patent applications held by the residents of Brazil. In comparison to the United States, Brazil doesn't hold nearly as many patent applications due to the fact that it's still a developing country, but its technological advances will definitely help to sustain the growth that this country encounters. Housing the largest river by volume, 40,000 plant species, and a highly diverse amount of animals, the Amazon is the largest rainforest to exist on the planet of Earth. Majority of this rainforest can be located on the country of Brazil, almost 2/3 to be exact. One major improvement that Brazil has made is its water resources. In 2006, Brazil scored a 0 in this category, but now they score as a 76.23 and rank as a 58 in comparison to the other countries. Readily access to water plays a major part in sanitation, which in turn affects the country's impact on health. This is evident on the environmental index graph. Another major factor is agriculture. Agriculture remains one of the nation's most important sources of income due to the fact that it heavily contributes to the country's gross domestic product. Therefore, when deforestation started to take place, the country was greatly affected as well as the rest of the world. The Amazon rainforest heavily influences world climate. If deforestation continues, not only will Brazil's GDP be impacted, global warming will continue to be a problem for the world as well. Brazil's legal system originates from the Roman law and follows the civil law tradition. It's deemed as the Federal Republic of Brazil and is formed by municipalities, the federal district, and the union of its states. This brought about the change to decentralization. The purpose was to create an environment conducive to autonomy and innovation for its states.
A basic SWOT analysis will show more concisely the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of any business venture wishing to enter the Brazilian market. Strengths to note would be extreme levels of mining commodities and wealth, as well as generally popular healthcare and education policies in place. Weaknesses to note, the obvious corruption practices at both the political and economic levels, as well as high crime rates, where more than 5 cities of Brazil are consistently ranked within the top 20 most dangerous cities of the world. Opportunities to note would be more opportunity to invest in this untapped country, as well as the 2016 Olympics held in Rio de Janeiro, a large-scale cultural sporting event. Threats to note, the rising concern of the Zika virus and a wide-scale health issue, as well as extremely high levels of inflation and interest rates. Brazil is an ever-changing, ever-evolving country both culturally and economically. As many challenges await a prospective business venture, it is the diversity of Brazil's people, culture, and geography that make this South American country a truly untapped market potential.